What's going on, guys? I am the Psychedelic Mystic, and it's about 3 in the morning right now. I just finished watching the Ultimate Edition of Batman v Superman, a release I was really looking forward to because, as most of you may know, I loved the shit out of Batman v Superman when it hit in theaters. I even saw it with my buddy Tarek in IMAX, in the best IMAX we could have, the only one in Indiana, I think. It was at the State Museum. Phenomenal experience, and I thought it was a great movie, and I rewatched it multiple times when it was in theaters. I originally noticed problems with it, but then the problems became praises, because one of my gripes from the theatrical release was some of the scenes felt a little unnecessary. At least I thought when I rewatched them. For example, the scene with Clark Kent going to the mountains and meeting with his father, like a ghost of his father, sort of. I thought that wasn't needed until, I think it was the third or fourth time I saw it, and I realized the true significance of that scene, which was to compare it to Bruce Wayne, who is mourning his parents, and he was talking to Alfred, asking him if he knew what Wayne Manor was built upon, or, something like that. And he was talking about his father. So those two scenes were to show the similarity of Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne, and how they both miss their father, and how they're both just as men as one another. And I think that's one of the reasons why this movie gets such a bad rap, because there's all these beautiful scenes, and not a lot of people understand them, and I think they're really underappreciated. So obviously, yes, this is a very positive review. I think this might be my favorite movie of 2016. I am not kidding. The Ultimate Edition is phenomenal. I think I might like it just as much as I did Watchmen. So obviously you guys know I love this movie, and if you don't want any of the 30 minutes cut or the entire movie, for example, spoiled for you, then stop the video right here. Go buy it. It's definitely worth the price just for the visuals alone, I think. Oh my god. There's 30 minutes extra in this movie, and my god, it helps with the pacing. I didn't even realize how bad the pacing was in the original cut. I might have to rewatch it just to see and compare the two, but I can already tell the Ultimate Edition fixes any kind of pacing issues that the theatrical cut might have had. I didn't really catch any. I thought everything moved pretty well because it was structured like a comic book, I thought. So I'm going to try and find the original cut online, because I don't know if it comes with the digital HD or if it's just the extended cut. But everything that's included in this movie, I didn't expect to actually make the movie better. I just thought it was going to be something interesting to look at, but obviously with scenes like the communion that Warner Brothers released shortly after the theatrical release, those scenes are so incredible, and it makes these moments, especially the prison scene at the end with Batman and Lex Luthor, it makes everything so much more phenomenal to watch. And there's also an extended scene in that prison scene that I just loved. I mean, I think that might be my favorite Batman line in the history of forever. Lex is, kind of twitching because he's, quote, insane, but I think the movie is trying to say that he's not really insane, because he was talking about, I think revealing Bruce Wayne's identity, but no one would believe him. And then Batman responds with, "That's right. We have hospitals to treat the mentally ill with compassion, but that's not where you're going. We're taking you to a Arkham Asylum in Gotham, and I have some friends there expecting you." And I'm like, oh my god, that's fucking awesome. This movie, I love it so much. I hate that it has, such a bad rap. Obviously, I'm going to save most of my, analysis of, individual scenes that get criticized and everything for the big comparison podcast with my buddy. I can't wait for Tarek to see this Ultimate Edition. It's so great. I really think it might be my favorite movie of 2016 so far, and that's comparing it to both Deadpool and Civil War, two superhero films, in fact, I loved. This just blew me away. And I would have never expected that from Ben Affleck, because he's never really been an actor I like. I think one of the only things I really liked him in was Argo, which I think the writers of Argo was also involved in Batman v Superman, but that doesn't matter. It's just such an amazing movie, I think. And I think it's really underappreciated. I really hope this Ultimate Edition restores people's interest, and a lot of people see it, That way Warner Brothers can push to $1 billion like it deserves. Even though this movie underperformed at the box office, it was still a success, and I'm really looking forward to what happens with Justice League, and especially the individual solo movies we're getting, and especially Suicide Squad. The Africa scene is extended a lot, I think, by a good 5 minutes. It's revealed that the one black woman at the beginning of the movie that was in front of the court saying that her parents tried to run and everything, it's revealed that she was just a ploy of Lex Luthor to try and get, her to go against Superman, to try and get the world against Superman. And speaking of Lex Luthor, his plot and his schemes are much more evaluated in this film. And as much shit as I wanted to talk about Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor initially, when the movie came out, I loved him. I think he might be my favorite Lex Luthor, and that's comparing him to Gene Hackman, too. And it was really nice to see him not just after fucking land like Kevin Spacey and Gene Hackman. Obviously, he might have been miscast, but I think his character, what Zack Snyder wanted to make Lex Luthor, I think Jesse Eisenberg was perfect for. Obviously, probably a lot more people would have rather seen Bryan Cranston, but here's my fingers crossed to saying Bryan Cranston is going to be Lex Sr. There's been a bunch of rumors about that as of late. Who knows? Obviously, Jesse Eisenberg is Lex Jr., so anything can happen, but for what he is, I liked him, and I enjoy seeing him on screen. And honestly, I think he might be a better, superhero villain, like a superhero movie villain, than any Marvel or most of the Marvel villains put to film. I think he's much more menacing, and I think a lot of people don't appreciate what he's doing. He's a better puppet master getting Batman and Superman to confront and conflict than I think Baron Zemo was in Civil War, but that's another thing I can save for the podcast. There's obviously more scenes with Clark Kent, which I think a lot of people did complain about. There's obviously him investigating the Batman, and as he's investigating, he comes across the homeless person that's saying there's a new kind of mean in him, he's angry and he's hunting. And that's referring to Batman, of course. I didn't think anyone wouldn't be able to get that, but that reveals that Batman wasn't always this, harsh. He wasn't always there. He had a moral system until Superman came, or until the death of his Robin. And I think that's a phenomenal story to explore for Batman. And I really loved Zack Snyder, going out of his way to make Batman an actual, dynamic character, because this entire film, he starts out, this grizzled, and, he abandoned his morals, and he even tells Alfred, we've always been criminals. But by the end of the movie, he realizes that his actions, are bad, and he has to reestablish that he is a good person, and he forms the Justice League in honor of Superman, who was a good person. I think that was a phenomenal story to tell with Batman. I think I might have even thought that was a deeper story than The Dark Knight, how Christian Bale's Batman had to sacrifice his, icon for the good of Gotham. Which, don't get me wrong, I love the shit out of The Dark Knight. I'm not bashing Christian Bale, man. You're still my dog, but God, I love Ben Affleck as Batman. I think he might be one of my favorite actor to superheroes ever, alongside Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. He's right up there with them for me. I loved Henry Cavill as Superman. I think he's the most underappreciated thing about this movie. A lot of people didn't like him as Superman in Man of Steel for some reason. I loved him in Man of Steel because, for me, Superman was always an unrelatable character. And now that Zack Snyder has made him, this alien, and people fear him, he's definitely more relatable. And I think he's a better character for it. But people still complain because they don't know what the fuck they want in a DC movie. There's always something that people can complain about when it comes to DC that they completely overlook with Marvel. That scene where Batman is about to kill Superman and he has him in his last breath and he's pleading with Batman for him to save his mother. I think that was such a beautiful scene, and that's the thing with this movie. There's so many beautiful scenes that people just make fun of for I don't even know why. I've seen the Martha joke everywhere, and I think that's pathetic because it's such a beautiful scene, and alongside the music and you see Bruce Wayne come out in that moment, and it's so heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking to see him about to kill someone he's had a vendetta against for 2 years, pretty much. And now he realizes that Superman is just as much of a man as Batman. And he breaks down, and he sees that Superman is good. And I think that's such a beautiful thing to include in this movie. Obviously, the fight between Batman and Superman is a little bit longer. I might be mistaken. It might be a lot longer. It might be the exact same. I honestly couldn't tell, but it was just as satisfying to see them clash as it was in the theater for the first time. And seeing the Trinity, oh my god. I still geek out about seeing the Trinity over the Avengers, and I don't know why, because I know everyone loves the Avengers. The Avengers is such a cool thing to see on film, but there was something about seeing the Trinity in this movie that it really hit home for me, and it made me crack a huge smile. Seeing Wonder Woman, it made me remember that moment in the theater. Everyone burst into applause, and it's such a good experience. Like, I highly recommend this movie. I can't recommend it enough. Like, everyone I've asked, or that's asked me if it's worth seeing this movie, I say, of course. But then they respond, but I heard, the critics trash it and everyone says it sucks. And I'm like, you can like a movie that critics don't, praise, like The Avengers or Civil War. You're free to like whatever movie you like. And I think this movie definitely does get a lot of unnecessary hate. A lot of unnecessary hate. I mean, 27% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that. I think that's awful. That's lower than Daredevil, I think. And this movie is so much better than Daredevil. Obviously, Jenna Malone's character, I found out early, wasn't Batgirl or Barbara Gordon. She's just someone in the crime lab helping Lois with the bullet that belonged to LexCorp. The violence in this movie got updated. Like, holy shit. Like, there's blood when Batman fights. It's pretty awesome to see. Obviously, Zack Snyder has such a great eye for, visuals alongside fighting. And I think that's something that Christopher Nolan can't even hold a candle to. As great of a director as I think Nolan is, I think Zack Snyder's vision of Batman is so much stronger and so much more badass. Obviously, the Capitol building exploding, it shows Superman saving people, and it shows him as this burdened hero. He's so heartbroken to see someone plotting, this attack against innocent people just to prove that Superman can't save everyone, and he feels so awful about it because he couldn't save them. I think the movie said that the wheelchair was encased in lead that he couldn't see, and that's something he morally questions, that he thinks he couldn't save them because he wasn't looking. And it's such a great story to tell of Superman, that he's this burdened hero now, and that not everyone sees eye to eye with what he is. He's not the symbol of hope that his father wanted him to be. Like he said, this symbol meant something on my world, and I have no world anymore. But by the end of the movie, he changes his character, and he sees that this is his world, and Lois is his world. And there's so much amazing things in this movie that I wish I had time to talk about, but obviously when Tarek and I see this movie, I'm going to see this movie over and over again. Of course I'm going to fucking buy it on Blu-ray. I love this movie. As plainly as I can put it, guys, I love seeing this movie. It's such a fresh experience for me every time, and this is definitely one of my favorite superhero movies ever made. I don't know if it's my favorite. We'll let the test of time put it where I want. Still, so far, it's Watchmen, but this was an amazing movie for me to see, and I'm really happy that it got made. With that being said, I will catch you guys next time. Peace.